Okay, let's talk about our second special right triangle. We'll begin with an equilateral triangle. An equilateral means all three sides have the same length. So all three of these sides are the same length, which then tells me that the angles opposite those sides are also the same measure. So if it has three equal sides, it has three equal angles. So if I take 180 and divide by 3, I get each of those angles is 60. So it's equilateral and equiangular at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down an altitude, or basically a segment that goes from one vertex to the opposite side. And because this is an equilateral triangle, that altitude, an altitude basically is a segment that's perpendicular to the opposite side. And what it does is it bisects the opposite side and it bisects the angle. Okay, so if that top vertex was 60, then basically now those two angles are 30 degrees. Okay, so what I've created then is two congruent, or meaning the same, 30, 60, 90 right triangles. Okay, so let's talk about measures for just a minute. Let's say then that these three sides, let's say that all of my sides were 2 to begin with. Okay, so these two, the hypotenuse of each of those 30, 60, 90 triangles will be 2. That means then the shorter sides here will be each 1. Okay, so let's take one of those 30, 60, 90 triangles and analyze it for just a minute. Before we do that, though, let's talk about the terminology. We know the hypotenuse is opposite the 90-degree angle. It's always the longest side. Then the two other sides that form the right angle, sometimes called the legs, one of them is longer than the other. They are not the same length. And so obviously the shorter side is opposite the smaller angle, 30 degrees. The longer leg is opposite the 60-degree angle. Okay, so we've got the shortest is opposite the 30, the middle length is opposite the 60, and the longest is opposite the 90. Okay, so what happens then if we say, okay, if my hypotenuse is 2, the longest side, the side opposite the 30-degree angle is going to be the shortest. Okay, so that tells me that my third side, which is labeled A, has to be a number between 1 and 2. Well, we can find that exact value by using Pythagorean theorem. So I'm just calling that one A. It doesn't matter if I used A or B. So I can say the sum of the squares of the measures of the two legs that form the right angle, or two shorter sides, is equal to the hypotenuse squared. So A squared plus 1 squared is 2 squared. When I solve that for A, I isolate A squared and then I apply the square root property. Remember that we are choosing the positive root. There are actually 2 numbers that you square to get 3, but we're choosing the positive root 3 because it is the length of a side. So this is telling me that A is square root of 3, or root 3. Now, what is square root of 3 approximately as a decimal? It is 1.7. So I can see then the shortest side is 1, the middle side is 1.7, and the longest side is 2. Okay, so there's that special ratio, but we want to talk about exact values. So it's a ratio of 1 to square root of 3 to 2. So I'm going from shortest to longest. Okay, now we know all 30, 60, 90 triangles are similar, which means their sides are proportional. So that same ratio will apply. Okay, so if I said that was 1 square root of 3, 2. Okay, so what does that tell us? So let's just start with the shortest side and we'll call that x. Basically, the shortest side opposite the 30-degree angle, that is the one that the measures of the other sides depend on, so to speak. If you know that one, you can find the others very easily just by multiplying. So we'll say the shortest side, we'll call it x. So whatever that measure is, to find the length of the middle side or the other leg opposite the 60-degree angle, we're going to take that number and multiply by the square root of 3. And then the hypotenuse is 2x, okay? It is twice the length of the shorter side. Because in my last example, the hypotenuse was 2, the shortest side was 1. All right, so there it is, x times root 3 and 2. All right, so that's the ratio you need to remember. And it goes from little to big. All right, let's do a quick example. Find the lengths of the remaining sides. Okay, what do I have? I have the side opposite the 30-degree angle. So that is my shortest side. So I'm going to call that my x. Okay. So the shortest side then, to find the other two, so if I want to find the other leg or the side opposite the 60-degree angle, then I just take that. Remember, that is x times square root of 3. So that's going to be 7 times the square root of 3, the exact value. Then the hypotenuse, we go to that shortest side again and we just double it. So it's 2x, or 2 times 7 is 14. So here is the measures of the sides. I don't have to do a ratio. So I've got 7 square roots of 3, and I've got 14. And there it is. Pretty neat. Get these memorized. It'll make life so much easier as we go through some of our remaining material.